Good morning, folks. Welcome to another daily devotional. This morning I want us to think about words of Paul in Ephesians 4. Ephesians 4 verses 22 and 23, where Paul says this: "You were taught with regards to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its sinful or deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds." To put off your old self. I wonder, have you ever had to do a really dirty job? A job that you knew you were going to end up completely claried. Maybe it was a job on the farm, and you knew because the fields were mucky and because there was a lot of dirt about that you were going to end up absolutely claried with cow dung, with muck, with all sorts of things. I would imagine that you wouldn't put your good three-piece suit on in order to go out to do that job. You would know that you're going to end up muddied and dirty and probably stinking, and you'll put on either old clothes or maybe a boiler suit over the top of other clothes. And when you come in and you finish the job, whether it's having been out in the fields in the farm, or whether it's getting out from underneath a car that's been leaking oil and there's oil and dirt and rust all over you, and you stand up, job finished, and look at the clothes that you're wearing, and they are absolutely covered in dirt. What do you do whenever you go into the house? Or maybe before you go into the house, if your wife has her way, you take off your old dirty clothes. Paul says you were taught with regards to your former way of life. In other words, the life you lived before you became a Christian, that life that was so characterized by sin, and where sin was so evident, so clearly seen, maybe in how you spoke, swearing, cursing, taking God's name in vain, maybe in how you lived, places you went, things you did, things you get up to. It was so evident in your life that it was as though you were completely covered in dirt. Paul says you were taught with regards to that way of life to put off your old self. The imagery is of disrobing. It's changing your clothes. And Paul is urging the Christians here to take off that way of living, to disrobe from that, to have it no longer on you, in order that you would be made new. And he goes on to say to put on, and he speaks about the things that we're to put on. It's the putting off of the old way of life and the putting on of the new way of life. We have already put on Christ because we have trusted in him. And now that our inner being is new and we have this Christ living in us, our outer life is to show that. When we were corrupt and sinful and under the judgment of God, our outer life reflected that. Now that we've been changed inside, we're to take off the old clothes and we're to put on the new clothes. Brethren, our lives are to testify that we belong to Jesus. So we have been taught regarding our former way of life to put it off. Put off your old self, which was being corrupted by its deceitful desires, and be made new in the attitude of your minds. May God bless these thoughts to our hearts today. Have a good day, brethren.